A very good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are ready for some action with the action man from the Octopussy. I think we are having some fun, or we're just enjoying Mr. Bedi on the stage. We have a response over here. Thank you so much. So, today we are living in the times where personal branding is changing the game of the world. It has been a phenomena earlier also, but in the past 2, 3 decades, every brand, every business success story is being written by a personal brand. And Mr. Bedi has been a pioneer in that, traveling the globe back in the day from Bollywood, going to Hollywood, and then becoming a global star. So, if you can share your thoughts about the journey, how you became a brand which was global and crossed the border and collaborated with people and created your own identity internationally.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you very much. Nice to see you all. Thank you for coming to Goa. Thank you for being part of the session. Yes, I'm an actor and I'm a brand, but I submit that so are we all. Every one of us here is an actor and everyone here is a brand. We're actors because we all play many parts in our lives. When you go to the dentist's office, you become play a patient. When you go to the airport, you're playing a passenger. You know, when you are in different situations, you adopt different personas. If you're taking the family for a dinner, you become the host and the patron of the family. If you're being dressed down by a boss, you play a repentant employee. Whatever it is, we're always playing roles. And each of us today have brands. And this has become more so in the age of social media, when everyone has a very distinct brand and they can measure how far their brand is reaching by the number of followers they're getting, etc. So, branding has always been there. And people who are aware of the importance of branding build on it. They build on it by how they dress, they build on it by how they speak, they build on it by the impression they create on people, the way their life is perceived, the way their message is received. All these are factors in brand building, whether personal or corporate. So for me, I initially wasn't looking to build any brands, I just wanted to get a job. I've written an autobiography which actually became the most popular autobiography on Amazon in 2021. And it had huge success. It's been now in Hindi, in Marathi, in Spanish, in Italian, etc. But the important thing is, if you want to know the details of what I'm saying, you'll have to read my autobiography. I hope you do. But really speaking,
That's branding.
I was working with All India Radio in Delhi, and one of the reasons I was working with All India Radio in Delhi was because my parents were great idealists, they were freedom fighters, and they couldn't afford to pay for the college that I got into, which was St. Stephen's College, on the basis of my marks. So I had to work while studying, so I worked for All India Radio. And one of the things I did when I was with All India Radio was I managed to get an interview with the Beatles. And it was a scoop because no other journalist in Delhi got through, but I, as a correspondent of All India Radio, used a couple of tricks and told a few white lies to get around the manager of the Beatles to get myself an interview with the Beatles. It's actually quite an interesting story, but given the amount of things you have to talk about, I won't get into the whole story, but bottom line was, I told them we're a government organization and they already scheduled an interview with the Beatles. If we didn't give the interview with the Beatles would get into trouble. And they'd already gotten into trouble with the government of Philippines because when they went to perform there in a concert, the dictator of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos, asked them to come to his house to sing songs to their children on their birthday. And the Beatles naturally refused to go sing birthday songs to a dictator's son. So they were thrown out of Philippines. I knew this because I was a big Beatles fan. And I pressured them using this fact that they'd be in trouble with the government again. So I got the interview with the Beatles. Anyway, the point was, after I left, I got to tell you this part also. After the interview was broadcast, and I went to All India Radio Weekly, and I said, give me a copy of the interview. They said to me, you can't find it. What do you mean can't find it? It's the interview with the Beatles. Dekh rahe hain, dhoond rahe hain, koshish kar rahe hain. Nothing. So I raised hell, and I found out that those days they were so underfunded that they didn't have money for tapes. So the tape that I used to interview the Beatles, they taped somebody else's interview over my interview. And this actually shattered me so much that I decided I don't want to work with All India Radio. I want to find a different kind of profession, do something different. So with 700 rupees in my pocket, I set off from Delhi to find a new destiny in Bombay. And I came here to Bombay really looking to get a job in advertising because I wanted to be a filmmaker and there were no film schools. And I thought if I make advertising films, I'll learn how to make films. So I set out wanting to be a filmmaker. Anyway, I joined advertising. I worked in advertising for 5 years, Lintas and then Ogilvy and Mather. In those days, Ogilvy used to be called S.H. Benson. And so that's another story, another part of my life.
So, sir, did working with Lintas and O&M as a film head, did that help you in becoming an actor and creating a brand for yourself, or it was a strategy applied as an advertising person? Did that come in help of any way?
As I said, in those days, I wasn't thinking of brands. I just think of getting a job and finding a way that I could express myself creatively. I wasn't thinking in brand terms, except I was working in advertising, and I was working with brands. So I understood the importance of corporate branding, but I didn't see it in terms of personal branding. I learned that much later. What happened was really that one of my great good fortunes was that when I worked with Lintas, my boss was Alec Padamsee, and he was one of the great theatre directors of Bombay. And when he realized as an actor who'd been acting in Delhi and in school, etc., he gave me an opportunity in a film, in a play, where I did very well. And then he cast me in the lead of Girish Karnad's first English play, Tughlaq. And I played Tughlaq, and it became the biggest hit in Bombay theatre history. And that led to film producers offering me films. And I had set out to be a filmmaker. Although acting was a hobby of mine, I had no great dreams of becoming an actor. But when I started getting offered acting roles, I thought, okay, nobody in the industry knows me. Let me get into the industry, get known, and then maybe I'll direct. And then I got into the industry, and there was a film or two of mine that didn't do well. And then I had a very big hit called Kache Dhage with Vinod Khanna, directed by Raj Khosla. So that set me on the road to success. And that's when I became aware of branding and the importance of establishing your brand as an actor and a star. And that helped me get a role with the Italians. Now, again, it's a very interesting thing that I was very clear that I did not like singing and dancing in films. It's not one of the things that I like doing. I love watching it. I think India does it best in the world. But I don't like doing it. I fancied myself as a more serious actor. So I knew that if I wanted to carry on my career as an actor seriously, I would have to go abroad. So I was looking for that. And when the Italians came into town looking for an actor, they wanted to play this iconic role of Sandokan, I fit the bill. I got the invitation to Rome, and I went there, auditioned, I got the role. And that led to my journey out of India, which was actually 25 years. I kept coming back in between. But to answer your question of branding, the biggest challenge for me in having an international career, which was a career in India, a career in Europe, they knew me very, very well because Sandokan became one of the most successful television series in the history of European television. Its records and numbers have not been beaten till today. And also a career in Hollywood doing big films and many big television series. My biggest challenge was how do you stay current on three continents when you can only be on one? Those were the days where we did not have social media, we did not have emails, we did not have the internet. How do you remain current on three continents? Because you stay on, in America, the Europeans and Indians will forget you. You stay in India, the Europeans and Americans will forget you. My challenge was somehow to keep doing things on each continent that kept me current, that people felt I was still around. So even though I was away from India for 25 years, I always, for the sake of keeping my brand alive and my presence alive, I would do major events. I'd do Asian Games, I'd do a big film festival, I'd do a massive award ceremony, I'd do things that people would see me. Acha hai kahin.
But sir, was this a conscious plan,
Yeah.
strategy which you applied to stay relevant in all these three places?
I had to. I had no option because otherwise I had to let go of two territories and focus on one. And I realized that I had to keep my brand alive on three continents. And how I did this was in different manner of ways. But, you know, the important thing in all advertising and branding is repetition. People need to see the ad a certain number of times before they actually are motivated to go and do something about it. Even if somebody likes an ad, likes a product, the first time they see it, they may not rush out and buy it. There's a rule of 7. If they see it 7 times, they're more likely to go out and actually buy it. First time they'll say, nice. Second time, oh, I must do that. Oh, God, I forgot. Yes, so you have to keep repeating your presence in public memory. Today, ironically, despite social media, etc., it's becoming increasingly difficult because there are so many brands and so many people trying to impress their presence on your lives. So how do you differentiate yourself from them and stand out and impress people with your presence and make them aware that you're there? So, you know, branding is something which like all advertising, you have to take a certain amount of risks. You have to do things that are slightly unusual. So in Italy, for instance, apart from acting, I would participate in these fantastic reality shows. There was one show called Isola dei Famosi where 12 celebrities were thrown onto an island where there was no food and you had to forage for food. And they would make sure you got no food until you participated in certain contests, some of them physical contests, so you earned the right to get a little food, etc. It was a very hard contest. I did that. The equivalent of Big Brother in Italy, Grande Fratello, I did that. So these are tricks I use to keep aware in the public consciousness because these are things that are watched by hundreds of millions of people. So you have to take those risks because at one level people say, oh, he's doing these shows, he's not a serious actor. But you have to take those risks. If you play safe, very often you lose out.
So I guess the process of identifying what you want in life to a degree is something which you set out with.
Yeah.
And then you had a strategy of staying relevant because your advertising background, your branding, and your understanding about staying relevant across wherever you have been. That you did all the parts, whatever came to you to stay relevant. Now, how was the collaborations across the globe which really worked for you to stay relevant and survive all these years still as an iconic, relevant person, as an actor, as an MC, and as an icon?
You know, the first rule is, brutal as it may be, is that you've got to remain on the board. On the board means you have to do films, your work has to be seen. This sometimes creates a difficult situation because you may not like all the roles that are offered to you. But if you are too picky and you stay back and hold back too long, people forget you. So even if you don't particularly like a role and you haven't done a role for a while, say in England or in America or Italy or India for that matter, and it's offered to you, and you think this will get me a lot of traction, it'll revive people, remind people of my name. Um, that's the important thing. So I could do 5 bad films in India for the sake of reminding people I'm there, but what they'll all remember is Khoon Bari Maang. But the fact is, Khoon Bari Maang and Rekha are there because they got reminded of my presence by other films that I may not have liked. I've done other films that I really liked, but I also have done films that I didn't like. It's a question of staying in the game because, you know, true success belongs to those who are in the battle, whose face is covered in mud, that are fighting in the trenches, that fall down, that pick themselves up, that carry on. Nobody has in this business an unblemished, forever ascending career. Everyone has ups and downs, and more so in the film business and more so with actors because unlike a director who's can be judged by his work and what he creates, or a music director that turns out great songs, actors are wholly dependent on somebody saying, I want you to do this role. Now, how do you persuade people to do, that you're the right person for the role is by being in the atmosphere, being there, reminding people of your presence, reminding them what you can do, what you have done, what you'd like to do. But it's not a easy journey for actors.
If I can add to this, the journey of putting your product out, putting your service out, and now we have an advantage of social media. Coming to my next question, is social media has to a degree helped or wasted a lot of people's time or whatever, but it is very relevant form of media today, changing from the times when it was outdoor media, television, newspaper, and radio. And now we have social media, which is ruling the roost in a way where it has taken eaten into the pie of the complete advertising world as a media. So, how do you see social media affecting or being useful for brands or for personal branding or for the company's branding?
See, there's 2 ways of looking at social media. One, if I look, say, at my granddaughter, Alaya, who's a brilliant young actress, who won the Filmfare Debut Actress Award for her first film, Jawani Janeman, with Saif Ali Khan, and has done 5, 6 other brilliant films. She today earns more money from brands paying her to endorse them on social media than what she's receiving from films. She's got over 2 million followers. This is for 2 reasons. One is her branding took place because of the film she did and the audiences she built up. But she also puts in enormous amount of work in building her social media brand. Today, over 2 million people. So she's one of the people that are actually profiting from social media. Now, people like my granddaughter, Alaya, are doing the right thing by exploiting the maximum power of social media. I believe that most people who are on social media are wasting their time. They're just consuming reels. They are consumers of pleasure. They're not producers of interesting content. They are largely consuming pleasure because it's pleasurable. And this is a business the social media giants understand, because earlier social media became a distraction from the traditional entertainment forms. There was film, theater, television, performing arts, even games. That was entertainment. Then that time spent on entertainment got eaten into by social media, so it became a distraction. That distraction, now the social media companies realized, has to be made into an addiction. So when you go onto your Instagram account for 5 minutes, you'll be there for 50 minutes because you'll start watching something and one reel will lead to another reel, lead to another reel, and they know you. They know you inside out. They know exactly the kind of reels you'd want to see. So you get sucked into this whole thing of reels, then you come back, you're seeing a few more things, another thing you tap on, another sequence of reels begins, and all this is user-generated content. But it's arranged in a way by social media people to keep you addicted. Now, this addiction is working very well because I talk to young people who are spending 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day on social media, whether it's Instagram or in some cases Facebook or some people on Telegram, some people on TikTok, some people on, you name it. It is, I believe, the people that are making money off social media are using their brands very well. People who are just consuming social media and trying to build a brand on social media without putting in sufficiently attractive elements in there to draw real crowds are the bakras. The bakras.
Yeah, we have
They're
to find
wasting
our
their time.
bakras. As brands, we have to find our bakras, but they are obviously the consumer.
The bakras are very interesting because the bakras, from a brand's point of view, from company's point of view, product's point of view, is excellent because the social media people can target them brilliantly. You want to reach somebody who's a young professional in a IT company who's got interests in music and literature. You can target these people because you've got the data on them. And you can target them very efficiently. Because the traditional modes of advertising were very expensive. You took full-page ads in the Times of India or the Hindustan Times. You took billboards. You put things on radio. You took trailers and film. These are broad television. You're broadcasting. You're broadcasting the hope of getting that target audience that you want, which is much narrower. So it's a very expensive way of reaching a narrow audience. And unless you were really a major consumer goods company that really wanted to reach everybody, for most companies, it is a very expensive way of reaching your customers. Today, you can define that far more precisely through social media. And so the whole game of advertising has changed from being broadcasters to becoming narrowcasters, to become more effective.
We can always say that
Brand building is based today on narrowcasting.
social media is the biggest tool which is helpful in reaching out to your target audience in a very scientific manner.
Correct.
Moving on from social media's usage in today's times to storytelling around a brand. When you're talking about storytelling, so is it necessary to weave a story around the brand or the personality behind the brand, or we can put in the work, put out the brand over there, and just market it nicely so that the brand itself becomes a story?
You know, it's interesting because the story doesn't have to be a story of once upon a time somebody lived. Every brand is marketing a product, but they're telling a story. The biggest brands are telling stories. Apple is really marketing status. There are Nike is really talking about success and grit and the just do it kind of thing. They're all selling stories that are larger than the product being offered. They're offering you a lifestyle, or they're offering you a dream, or they're offering you status, or they're offering you things that are not directly connected to the brand. But it's the most clever way of advertising is to offer people something that they aspire towards. And that, if you take your product and translate it into that rather than the functional part of your product, it's not that a pair of sneakers will make you, or a pair of running shoes will make you run faster. That's not your promise. Your promise is this is used by great athletes. Therefore, maybe you will become a great athlete. There is the story aspect of advertising. And in terms of me as an actor, my story had to keep evolving because initially I came as the actor from India. I was seen as romantic, romantic Indian from the mysterious East in Italy. And then I went to Hollywood and I played the role of this Indian villain in the Bond film. But I had to tell my agents, because the biggest problem I had was nobody was writing roles for Indians in those days. So I told my agent, stop looking for roles for Indians. That's not what I'm selling. The image I'm selling, the brand I'm selling is a foreign actor. I can play any foreign role and find me foreign roles that are non-American because I can't compete with Americans for American roles. But I can compete for any foreign role with any American actor. And that's my USP. And those are the roles I got. I played in The Bold and Beautiful, I played a Moroccan prince. In Magnum PI, I played a German. And Highlander, I played somebody from another century, a mysterious character. So it's only in Octopussy actually where I was cast as a Sikh, which is the family I come from. All the other things I did were things that were not what my usual brand would be, but extending the brand so that I extended through the net wider to get myself more employment. And I think people trying to advertise their products or their services when they reach out really need to cast a much wider net to bring in the customers and the people they want to associate with their brand. Because today, it's no longer the functionality of a product that matters. What matters is the story that's being sold by the brand.
Awesome, sir. And we'll come to the summation of this beautiful session with you. I hope it was very insightful. The last question or the thought which I would like to ponder upon with you is that as we started in the beginning, that the brands were selling themselves without the person behind the brand earlier. In the past few decades, the person behind the brands have started coming out as a personal branding to knit the story and take the brand to a different level. So now, as an actor, obviously you are the brand yourself and you're the storyteller yourself. And you have to be clear with your own identity that this is the kind of work we want to do. But for people who are upcoming brands, how would personal branding of the uh, showrunner help in making the brand a bigger brand?
I don't know why, but I'm reminded of a lesson I learned when I was working for Lintas. They showed us a very interesting film. And it was a film about an ad they showed a client of theirs who had a shirt company. And they showed him an ad of a very distinguished looking man standing there in black shirt against a white shirt against a black background and with an eye patch. And this was an ad that had run many years ago and it had sold 2 million shirts. But when they presented this to this shirt manufacturer, he and his plans board sat, looked at the ad, they said, yes, that's very nice. And the ad just said, the man in the Hathaway shirt. And they looked at it and said, that's very well. But you know, actually, this looks as though our company makes only one shirt. We don't have a variety of shirts. So why don't you put some panel around the side showing that we make a variety of shirts? So I said, okay. Then somebody else said, you know, but the fact is, men buy shirts for women and women buy shirts for men. So we should have a woman involved somewhere in this ad for it to be more effective. So then the woman was put in looking over the man's shoulder lovingly. Then they said, this ad, man in the Hathaway shirt, what does it say? You must offer some product benefit. You look smarter in a Hathaway shirt. So they changed the line to, you look smarter in a Hathaway shirt. And at the end of it, and then they said, this man has this eye patch. You know, it's a physical disability. Why do you want to associate with a physical disability? Get rid of the eye patch. So now you have this ad, man standing there, no eye patch, woman over his shoulder, many shirts around him. And the lesson of this film was that the people that were making suggestions to change the ad all were making very responsible suggestions because they felt responsible to show that the brand had many variations, that women were involved, that the brand promised more. But in trying to be responsible, they took the biggest risk of all, which is the risk of being invisible. That ad looked like any other shirt ad, whereas the first ad with the man with the eye patch against a white shirt, against a black background, stood out and jumped out at you, caught your attention, and it had in the past sold 2 million shirts. So you have to take risks. You have to find ways of standing out from the crowd. Today, I've always called myself a Bollywood actor because I came from here and I went and had a career abroad. But what makes me stand out from Bollywood today is the fact that I've had an international career. I have an international aura around me because of the films I've done in the countries I've worked in and the films that I've been a part of. So that differentiates my brand as not just an actor, but an international actor, in fact, a global actor. And then you can add to it other things that you find. He's a voiceover, he's a speaker, he's written books, etc., etc. But primarily, it is the international actor that stands on the base of the Indian actor. That's what differentiates me from the normal Bollywood actor.
Lovely, sir. I think we have come to the conclusion of this beautiful creating your brand, striving for your own identity, what you love doing, no matter what happens, you can't stop. You are unstoppable, sir.
Thank
We have seen you and been a fans, and I'm sure half the time people get stumped and we go speechless when we see you and we hear you talk. I'm like,
thank you. Thank
no
you.
stammering.
Thank you for
Brother
giving me the
Mr. Bedi.
opportunity to talk. Thank you again.
I hope this session was insightful for you guys. And we'll
you.
conclude with this
Thank
one.
you.
Thank you so much, sir, for being here with us.
Thank you for coming to this. I really admire the work that Abhay is doing in the brand story. He's done it in various places. He's now brought it to Goa. He's done it in Delhi. He's done it abroad. It's wonderful how he keeps at it because he really loves the whole concept of brands and brand building. And I salute him for it because it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy to get all of you together in one room. It's not easy to get me down here. It's not easy to get Raajeev down here. It takes a lot of effort. And I salute Abhay for what he's doing and Sidesh. And I wish them the greatest success in the future. And any way I can be of help today to anybody, I'm here for all of you. Lovely to be here. And let's all celebrate Goa together. Thank you.